C'est commencé.
Merci. Bonjour, messieurs, dames. Bienvenue à notre réunion du comité de logement abordable. On va commencer avec les noms des conseillers. Monsieur Lefebvre.
Oui, présent.
Présent, et moi-même. Et vous nommez un peu ceux qui participent à notre réunion aujourd'hui. On a monsieur Trevor Horn de ARDN, monsieur Assad Bati de ARDN, ainsi que Zain Abedin de ARDN. Welcome, guys. Nice to have you here again with us. Et on a aussi Mme Sylvie Miette, des Comtés unis de Prescott-Russell, et M. Alain Lasselle. Bienvenue à tous. On va commencer avec l'ouverture de la réunion, le vrai proposeur. M. Lefebvre, puis j'imagine que ça va être moi. L'adoption de l'ordre du jour, proposée par moi-même, secondée par M. Lefebvre. Y a-t-il des déclarations de conflit d'intérêts? Aucun. OK. On va commencer la discussion des fonds supplémentaires offerts par le gouvernement de l'Ontario. On a tous vu que le gouvernement a ajouté des fonds supplémentaires dans le programme qui avait sorti en mars 2020. Je crois, corrigez-moi si j'ai tort, quelqu'un, mais je crois que c'est 21 millions de supplémentaires. Et la date butoir est le 15 septembre. Donc, pour faire application, ça urge. La raison, c'est une des raisons pourquoi on a invité M. Lasselle et Mme Miette, parce que tout est en connexion avec les Comtés unis. Donc, les personnes ressources pour nous, ce serait M. Lasselle et Mme Miette. Si vous avez quelqu'un qui a des questions, des commentaires, des suggestions, n'importe quoi, il faut être très ouvert parce que ça urge.
Sylvie, je ne sais pas si tu veux préciser ou tu veux que j'y aille. Juste pour préciser, la portion que les Comtés unis reçoivent, c'est du SSRF, c'est 3 millions 30 000. Et il y a un programme qui est nommé Coachy, ça c'est 225 300. Et la date butoir est le 15 septembre.
Merci, M. Lasselle, de préciser. Madame Dussault, vous aviez la main levée.
En fait, je prends l'opportunité, de vous remercier. Je suis contente de vous rencontrer parce que c'est, en tant que municipalité, on n'a pas souvent des communications avec vous directement. Oui, au niveau des élus, Mme Ansley et tout, mais moi, en tant qu'administration, moins. Donc, est-ce que ça serait possible de m'expliquer un petit peu c'est quoi votre rôle au niveau des Comtés unis, puis comment ça fonctionne le housing, social housing au niveau des Comtés unis finalement?
Je peux commencer, Alain. Moi, mon nom est Sylvie Miette, je suis la directrice du département des services sociaux. Donc, notre portfolio est les services de logement, les services de la petite enfance et le programme d'Ontario Travail. Donc, on gère quand même des gros dossiers, beaucoup de programmes. Puis, depuis le début de la pandémie, le ministère des Affaires municipales et du Logement nous a transféré, on agit un peu comme l'agence de transfert de paiement pour les fonds de secours des services sociaux. Donc, vous avez entendu dans les nouvelles quand on parle de Social Services Relief Fund, c'est justement qu'est-ce que M. Paquette il mentionnait, que ces fonds-là, c'est vraiment sur, comment je pourrais dire, c'est juste en attendant, il faut que ça soit relié à la pandémie, à la COVID. Donc, c'est certain que c'est pour un temps limité. Puis, il faut être capable de démontrer aussi qu'est-ce qu'on peut faire dans ce temps limité-là avec les fonds qui nous sont offerts par la province, parce que sinon, eux autres vont aller vers une autre municipalité. Donc, souvent, les fonds sont toujours d'après la population. Donc, qui déterminent ces montants-là d'après le besoin des différentes régions. Donc, moi, je vais terminer là. Je vais laisser Alain parler un petit peu plus du service de logement parce que le but ultime de la rencontre aujourd'hui, c'est plus au niveau des logements. Donc, je cède la parole à Alain.
Excusez un instant, s'il vous plaît. Ce serait-tu possible d'expliquer les grandes lignes en anglais aux gens de RDN, s'il vous plaît?
Les grandes lignes de quoi, M. Paquette?
De ce que vous avez mentionné, là.
OK. Well, first, I'd like to present myself. I'm Sylvie Miette from the Department of Social Services for the United Counties of Prescott and Russell. Our portfolio includes housing, childcare, and Ontario Works program. So since the last year, we're very much involved with the ministry because they downloaded funds. So we act as a transfer payment agency for vulnerable organizations, so nonprofit primarily. So you've heard about the Social Services Relief Fund. So we were the service manager that was responsible to take care of the funds and make sure that they were transferred to the right organizations and all that. I will let Alain Lastel speak on behalf of the housing program.
If I may interject, Monsieur le Président, puis ajouter à Madame Miette her comments, because like you mentioned in French, a lot of it was geared to COVID-19, basically as to post-COVID and how you can come into aid to various nonprofit organizations. And I'm involved in one, as you know, the Hawkesbury Central Food Bank, which we benefit greatly from that organization. But as you mentioned, it's more of a transition or band-aid, if I can use that expression, and not necessarily for permanent housing or affordable housing. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you, Madame Miette.
Merci, Monsieur Lefebvre. Monsieur Lastel, peut-être que si vous désirez ou si vous préférez le français, peut-être le faire en anglais. De cette façon, on ne se répétera pas. Si vous êtes confortable avec ça.
Oui. Yes, yes, no problem. I thought I'd do that. My name is Alain Lastel. I'm a housing manager. I've been a housing manager for the past 21 years or so, when everything was downloaded to the counties, when used to be a provincial responsibility. Housing was with the, had its own commission, housing commission, and so forth. But now everything has been downloaded since 2000. And so under the Housing Services Act, we are designated as service manager. So for the delivery of housing within the counties of Prescott, Russell, the responsibility rests with the counties. However, there could be, of course, we could combine with the local municipalities funding if the local municipality wishes to do so, or the local municipalities could have their own housing programs if they wished. Yes, we've had a surplus of $3,030,000, and as Robert Lefebvre mentioned, these funds have been mostly used for operations so far. There's been no commitment projects that were committed. We did try. We had a sort of a surplus funding in year 2 of the SSRF program. And we were to combine this with the Rapid Housing Initiative. There are 2 projects that were in play, one being in Vaintliquille and one in St. Albert. And however, there wasn't enough federal funding to move forward with those projects. So those 2 projects are now reapplying. So there is a possibility there to fund those projects. But these will be discussed anyways. Sylvie had sent to all mayors of the counties the funding allocation, and to seek out if there was any interested parties that were ready to build, because we do have to commit those funds by December 31st of this year. And once a commitment has been done, construction has to start within 90 days. So we're looking at shovel-ready projects, basically. And this is real, and it's the same thing for any other funding that comes from the ministry. Usually funding comes, and sometimes if we don't have construction-ready projects, we have to take the funding and go to operations. So we offer rent supplement housing. We offer first buyer, like home ownership programs, renovation programs, and we've been doing that for many years, or allocation as well.
If I may ask a question, Mr. President?
Go ahead.
Thank you. I assume, Mr. Lasselle, that you'll also be looking at emergency shelters because that has been an issue basically when we have a serious problem like fires and so forth. So I assume that your department will be looking at that and try to allocate funds for emergency shelters so that going forward we can address people who are basically without any housing.
In terms of what is allowed or under that envelope, yes, shelters are one of the eligible projects that can be done or built or acquired. However, there's been no push from the counties to own their own shelter. So we leave it up to agencies. If there is a will out there, we will look at their proposal and allocate funding there. It's a possibility, yes.
It's a possibility. I assume like Centraide, United Way, basically, or East Ontario, United Way, or even the Red Cross, but I don't think they would be involved at your level. Is that correct, Alain?
We have had no discussions with Red Cross ever. I could see victims services maybe wanting to have some sort of buildings or maybe sort of agreement, long-term agreements with the private sector, maybe for to allow for shelter. That's a possibility.
Because I know you do have certain areas or certain places that are designated for 1 or 2 emergency housing in the town of Hawkesbury. But like when we've had the past fires in the past several years, they certainly cannot accommodate the needs at all that we've had because a lot of them are multi-residential properties.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yes.
Let's see, Alain.
If I may add also is that the social service relief funds is a province funds. So at the county base, we only we act like as a middleman between the organization, the nonprofits, and the ministry. So we won't take any decisions at all with who might receive those funds. So we just make sure that we can keep the funds in the counties and that we send the information. So that's why I sent out to all the members of council all the guidelines for the Social Services Relief Fund. And if they do have shovel-ready projects, to let us know by September 15th so that we can send out the letter confirming that, yes, we do want the funds. And at that time, the ministry will decide how they decide to allocate it.
So basically, you're not the initiator. You're, like you mentioned, the middleman, and you either endorse it or not. Because I assume you do have a certain amount of involvement in terms of approval process. Is that correct?
Exactly. We need to verify if all the criteria is met. So if the criteria is not met, well, we won't send it out.
I understand. I understand your willingness to keep the money as much as you can locally here.
Exactly.
And that's appreciated.
And I made a few phone calls myself to people in the business and construction, and the closest I could get was a developer that had his plans only finish up to 60%. So will that be done 100% by September 15th? I keep my fingers crossed, but I'm not too sure if that's going to happen.
And when you talk about shovel ready, you're talking about all the permits being approved, like building permits, to be able to qualify as shovel ready before March 31st? Alain?
Yeah, yes, commitment would need to be where there's no zoning change or minor variance or other things that would impede the project. So we have to, if the permit is sort of ready to be issued, or at least the construction start. Because
providing it meets the zoning requirements, like you mentioned, and we know the process for zoning sometimes can be quite lengthy.
Yeah, so and as we said, if the zoning becomes a problem where there is in the end it's not approved, then we must return the funds. You know, if we do say, well, let's allocate for this project, but there's still a zone change to go through, and then the zoning change does not go through, and we're past the 31st of December, then we might be stuck. Well, we would have to return the funds. So the commitment has to be, you know, sort of really there on December 31st. Now, earlier we talked about the 15th of September deadline. That's to submit the projects. I mean, the construction plans do not have to be 100% finished, but I would say the lot has to be acquired and the zoning has to be right and ready, like to issue a permit. In other words, at the end of the day, when December 31st comes, there needs to be a contribution agreement signed and sent to the ministry. And once this is signed, construction has to be started within 90 days.
So I guess what Mr. Paquette was mentioning, because of a potential developer, and if he has a serious interest, then I guess it would be in his best interest and our best interest that he can file something by September 15th, even though later on he cannot meet the qualification via contribution agreement or so forth. But it would be maybe to his best interest to proceed on that basis. Would that be correct?
I would say so, because I mean, you could tell us whether or not the zoning is right for the property. Is he already owner of the property? Is, you know, details, devil's in the detail, of course, but
absolutely,
we would need to.
I agree with you, and that's why I'm addressing it to Mr. Paquette, because he has been in contact. So maybe I'll leave that with him, basically, so that if he wishes to discuss it further and the developer is willing to proceed, then at least there's an option there on the table.
Right.
Yes and no, because the land that I'm talking about needs to have a land division, and also I think it needs a zoning change. So all this before September 15th, I suppose. So.
No, it doesn't have to be before September 15th, I think, as long as before the contribution agreement, Alain?
Right. Well, like I say, once the contribution agreement is signed, the construction has to start within 90 days.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So,
okay.
But he would have to file, and maybe I'm getting beyond myself, but he would have to file something with your office as a service manager, so that you would have to evaluate and recommend based on timelines that he would be willing to submit within that frame.
Right, correct.
Okay, so maybe that person could have a discussion, maybe with the chair as well as maybe with somebody from your office or yourself regarding timelines. Is that a possibility?
Yes, I will give the developer a phone call and see if he can contact Mr. Lasselle. That is, if they're not already in contact. That's one thing that I doubt very much, that they are already in contact, and it's not going to be nothing new to Mr. Lasselle or Madame Miette. But anyway, just to make sure, I will transmit the message to contact Mr. Lasselle, and we'll see from there, because it's a lot of work, and hopefully that these things can go through, because we're in very, very big need of sort of affordable housing, and we need as much as we can out of that. And as we all know, the town of Hawkesbury lacks some land. We probably going to be having to face some other options sooner or later. But right now, I would like to be able to work with the developers that already have land or can acquire land that is proper for these projects. But right there now, we have a few that seems to be a little interested, some not at all. I just don't know which end to take now, because I've been working on this for a long time. I've been working on this when there used to have committees at the town, my first term of council with Madame Portalance. And the need was there, but not as urgent as today. Today, we have an urgency for affordable housing, and hopefully that this council here can achieve something out of that. Thank you. Anybody else? Do you have any questions from RDN or? I
would like to just suggest that the whoever developer that has interest in developing something under this program to send them the guidelines, like a lot of information. Okay, that's great. Thank you.
Thank you to you both. I think that was very interesting for me, for us also, Celeste, like we don't deal directly with you, so it's very good to know what is your portfolio and what's your involvement and how people can work with you to get projects in Hawkesbury or within the territory of Prescott and Russell, for that matter.
Monsieur le Président, avant que vous changiez de sujet, vu qu'on a les gens déconditionner, peut-être ce serait bon aller à thème numéro 6 sur l'ordre du jour.
Oui, je pense que c'est ça qu'on va faire. Ça peut fort probablement intéresser RDN aussi, ça, de quelque façon que ce soit. Donc, si vous me permettez, Madame Gott, on va aller directement à l'item 6, qui est terrain non vendu sur la rue Portalance et Taché.
Okay.
We will be moving forward to item 6, and maybe you can have something interested into this matter. And we have Mr. Lasselle and Madame Miette, who are the key person to talk to about that land that are actually for sale. Okay.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, I had the report of Madame Bellil at the time. I could just do a slight introduction.
Yeah. Okay, sir.
Okay. Merci, Monsieur le Président. As you know, possibly, and you dealt with Madame Manon Bellil, who was our planner at the time, and who prepared a report, and now she has left, and she's been very well replaced by Madame Cordanier, who's now the planner for the town of Hawkesbury. And in the report that Madame Bellil had made in September of 2000, which is further to the report that was done by RDN, excuse me, I'm a little bit, I gotta get used to the acronym, I'm sorry, RDN. And she had provided a list of properties, potential properties that could be considered. And one of the properties was in the Parc aux Milles, which is at the corner of Taché and Portalance. There was about 11 properties that were identified as potential site, which are owned by the counties. The counties own, in fact, about maybe 40 single detached properties, but this was a group of properties that were at the corner of Portalance and Taché, and there was 11 in total, of which now I believe, according to what the real estate has posted, there have been 5 that have been sold, 4 which face on Portalance and 1 on Taché, which remains 6. Now I know that the area in question has been the subject of discussion because it used to be a former pond. That's why it was called Old Mill Pond. Basically, it was drained many years ago, and development has occurred for social housing, and which is now maintained and operated by the counties and through Alain Lasselle's department. So I just wanted to give you that brief introduction because there has been discussion as to all the lands have been sold or not. So we just like to maybe clarify that with Madame Miette or Monsieur Lasselle as to where they stand in terms of those properties. So that's the whole point of my introduction. I'm sorry for being a little bit long, but I just wanted to provide this for everyone. Thank you. Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Yes, and the reason why we invited Mr. Lasselle and Madame Miette is to ask question about these properties there. See if there's any way that we can have discussion or talk about getting affordable housing around there, or if not, what are the grounds? How are they? Are they like porous? Are they good to have construction? Or is it not recommended to build anything on these lands? I'm not sure, but they're for sale, so I would suppose that they would be okay to build. Monsieur Lasselle?
Sure, I could start. Basically, over the years, we've had those vacant lands with, in the past, we've tried selling portion of them. There is no interest from the counties to build or to invest in more social housing. Not that there's no interest, but there's no available funding or additional funding for the counties to invest. So we are not using tax dollars to develop new housing. We have our portfolio is 311 units, and we didn't want to further concentrate an area that already has like 72 social housing units. So we preferred leaving it up to the private sector to build affordable housing. And so we went to council, I think it was last year, to with the assessment of the lot, knowing that there is issues with soil capacity. And so we decided to sell these lots and leave it to the private sector for affordable housing. It's mostly for single family or possibly semi-detached units. We've only kept 3 of those lots, or 2 of them, for childcare. We have a childcare office now in Hawkesbury, so just across that office, we'd use a few vacant lots for. We've also kept 2 of them in Gladstone, which we intend to develop for affordable housing, because Gladstone is there's not a concentration of many social housing units. And we thought we use that only vacant land to develop another semi-detached over there. So in bringing this to council, they approved the sale of all of those lots, and most of them have offers on them or about to be sold. So with the condition, of course, they sign in the offer of purchase, they are well aware of the conditions, soil conditions, and they have to make their own assessments. They have to communicate with the municipality to ensure that the zoning will permit whichever they wish to build. So I hope that answers. If you have any additional questions.
No, the only thing I would say is that if a developer is interested in making affordable housing on these properties, are they already separated? Or I don't recall, maybe just my memory is failing me, but with all these signs that I see on Port Alliance near the railroad track, there would be like a nice piece of land there to do affordable housing if a private sector businessman would want the land would be available for them, or you would have to sell them one by one like all the sign says.
At the present time, these lots are all severed for either single or semi-detached, depending on lot frontage. And I think there's only one service, so there's the issue of also providing additional services if it's a semi-detached. But I'll let Mrs. Cordonnier speak to the zoning or whatever other projects that could be built on those.
Okay, thank you, Monsieur Lessel. As-tu d'autres des questions? Anybody else has a question for Madame Dussault?
Well, maybe Madame Cordonnier could explain the issue with the zoning, because to really understand, like, this is not a shovel-ready project, even if because there is need to be, well, so let's go ahead.
Yeah, well, I know it's not a shovel-ready project or land, but I'm looking into what we need now, but we also have to be looking up ahead, because where we are now is a sense of urgency. But that doesn't mean that further down the line, it's not going to happen again.
Exactly. And we discussed already, like, the zoning component. I think we do have it. We started to, no, we don't have it on the agenda, but we started discussing what can we do. We started discussing with RDN earlier, so that, like, we need to probably make some zoning change. Madame Cordonnier would be much better explaining that to the committee.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. The idea is to make a global zoning amendment that would permit more secondary dwellings used in the R2 zones. Because if we see the map of the zoning map of the town, can I share it with you so you can have an idea? Let me know when you are able to see my screen.
Right now it's just black.
Okay. I think it froze a little, but I might. Oh, okay.
Okay, there.
Okay, so as we can see, we have mostly R1 and R2 zones for residential uses in the town. The R3 zone represents only one lot here, and the R4 zone are mostly in the community center part of the town and on McGill Street. The main thing that I wanted to add on the zoning change will be to permit the addition of converted dwellings in the R2 zones, because they are permitted in the R3 and in the R4 zones. So as we can see, the R3 zone is just one lot. So I think it might be easier for everyone to permit it in R2. We already had a lot of requests to convert dwellings in the eastern part of the town, like in Lansdowne Street in Lansdowne neighborhood. They cannot, like people want to add secondary dwelling in their house and rent some of those dwellings temporarily or on long term. I think this will help with the housing crisis because it adds choices for the people, and also this type of housing will be more affordable than a whole house or a whole apartment to rent for one person. Also, this will be for the existing ones and also for the Portelance and Taché zone, because it's R2. It's a R2 zone. Actually, the secondary dwelling units are permitted in every zone, but you can just have one in the dwelling. The converted dwelling units are for 4 secondary dwelling units. We already had a zoning amendment request on February on Albert Street. I don't know if you remember it. It was a woman who was living in the R1 zone that wanted to convert her house to permit 4 dwelling units inside. It was an R1 zone, so it was refused. But I think that in the R2 zone, it could be interesting to permit it. Also, the zoning amendments would allow to allow a bed and breakfast use in the R2 and in the R4 zone, because actually it is only permitted in the R3 zone. And as I presented before, the R3 zone is only one lot. The bed and breakfast would be short-term rental units located in a dwelling that has the owner living at the same time. And we might need to change the definition of it also, because it says that right now it says that it includes this preparation and service of breakfast and lunches, but I think that it will be great to say it may include this, because as we know, not everyone wants to prepare everything for their renters. Also, for the new project, I think that it would be great to change the R4 provisions because right now the R4 zone says that you cannot develop any apartment or townhouse units near single detached or semi-detached houses, but these are R4 zones, and almost all of them are near single detached and townhouses. So I think that this this provision should be removed, because also when you add an offer zone, you have a zoning change, a zoning amendment, so the public is consulted, and if the neighbors are not in favor of the project, they can manifest their disagreement. And finally, I would like to propose you to adopt a short-term rental bylaw to permit rentals like Airbnb, because this will help for the temporary housing. I already have an example of this kind of bylaw from Kingston, and this will be separate from the zoning amendment. So that's all I had to propose today.
Okay, thank you, Madame Cordonnier. Just to say that Mrs. Miette had to leave. Just want to thank her for all the information she provided. Thank you. Anybody else has question for Madame Dussault?
I just wanted to make a precision. This was in discussion, like we're not proposing to committee at the moment. We're just proposing, these are the type of discussions that we're having, considering the taché lots, which are meant for single dwellings. What can we do in maybe to help eventually to build affordable housing. So these are the type of discussions that we're having. We're not proposing at the moment, but this is just very interesting in order to help the developers to think about building units that are in need in Hawkesbury.
Merci, Monsieur Lefebvre.
Oui, merci, Madame Cordonnier et Madame Dussault pour vos commentaires. I just want to add that Madame Dussault, basically, I think that's part of the mandate and the strategy of affordable housing, in the sense that to find an action plan, basically, it is part of the mandate that had been established and given by council when we created the affordable housing. If you take a look at the recommendation that you had made in February of 2001, when we established the committee, that was part of the process. And I think what Madame Cordonnier has spelled out, and what Madame Dussault you have also mentioned, in terms of having that short and very short and medium, not long term, but medium, in terms of changing the zoning bylaw, where you can address additional housing and convert it in the R2 zones or so forth. So I think that is a way, almost a fast track that could be done when it comes to that at that level. I might be mistaken. Maybe the individuals that are with us, RDN, if they have any comments on that. Thank you.
Pas de commentaires, non? OK. Y a-t-il d'autres questions, Mme Assé, ou des questions pour M. Lasselle, ou quelqu'un a des questions de M. Lasselle? Any question for Mr. Lasselle, anybody? No? Bon, merci.
Thank you for having us.
Right. Well, we're not done with RDN yet. We have another issue. Mr. Lasselle, I think that's about all for us. Thank you for joining us and your information. We're very interested. Hopefully that I will call the developer in question, like I thought, and I will ask to contact you. But I would be very surprised that you're not already in contact with him. But anyhow, we'll just make sure 100%, and we'll check it out. Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Lasselle, and please thank Mrs. Miette for all the information she gave us.
Will do. Thank you. Have a good day.
You too. Bye-bye. Okay, then we're going to go back to the item number 5. It's a follow-up with RDN. Just to tell you, Madame Ashley, maybe you weren't there, it's not called Alberta Rural Development Network anymore. They changed their logo and their name because of they have quite big business outside of the province of Alberta, so they just wanted to generalize so they changed it to RDN.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you. Sorry.
So anyhow, the the thing why mostly because we invited you here is because if you remember, you asked us to answer some questions, and the council agreed on that, and we created what we call an affordable housing committee. And the committee got together, I don't remember the date, but and answered the questions. We're just wondering exactly where we are with that. And Mrs. Ashley had mentioned too at one point that the numbers that there for construction, that was like before COVID. And right there now, the price of the building materials has rocketed. Did you change anything in the would say that the presentation that you gave us?
Yes, absolutely. So for a lot of the projects across the country, because of the price of not only lumber but also distribution on housing materials and such has really skyrocketed due to COVID. We have made adjustments to our financial model. More so, we're also leaning more on the expertise of the cost estimators in the industry, like quantity surveyors, engineers, and architects, as they have a better grasp of what those funds, what those changes in project costing have been. So we're relying on them to kind of suggest what the changes should be, and then using their pricing in the development of the projects. But we're also able to like estimate at a rough rate what the price increases have been, and then bring that into our high level estimate in the financial models.
Thank you. And what about the question that you had sent out and we answered them? Did you have a chance to do a follow up on these, or?
Yeah, so these answers that I think I received them back in July. So thank you for that. It's fantastic. Yeah, these answers are basically the information which was required to finish the business case. The business case already has, and just before I mention it, to give the high level overview of what the business case is supposed to be. It's supposed to be this document that you can take to an affordable housing developer, your town council, CMHC, or other funders, even the province of Ontario, and show them that we are thinking about a project and here's all the details about the project. So that's the sort of document that we're helping you develop. And so it actually already has the financial information in it that we can update with the newer information. And now with the information about Hawkesbury specifically, we will update the business case with that information as well. So then anyone who's reading it is able to learn about Hawkesbury, the great work that you guys are doing, that you have an affordable housing committee, and so on and so forth, before getting into the financial details of a project. Even further on, as your project develops architectural drawings and concepts, those can also be brought into the business case, which will help people have a more holistic view of your project.
Okay. Madame So?
I just wanted to mention, since we had presented, I think it's in March, to council, and the council accepted it, the staff is using the draft to present to developers or people interested. So we're already using the tool. We would like it to have finalized. However, it's well constructed and there's a lot of very interesting information. Maybe the last information needs to be updated, COVID and all, but it's very well written so that someone that doesn't know the town can get really ahead and knowing a little bit more about the needs and the demographics of Hawkesbury.
Mm-hmm. I would like to add one small thing here. I know you guys are looking at using the business plan and the financial model as well, and we are going to be updating the financial model with different costs, the new costs essentially. I want to mention that all the cost, the raw material cost has been fluctuating quite a bit. So if you are talking to a developer, make sure that they understand these are not rigid costs and they are fluctuating. So try to get like the best value for what we're proposing, right? Because these costs, we've started hearing that they're starting to decrease now. And the cost estimators also do not know how the impacts are, like what is going to happen, what the costs look like. So it is going to, it might not be the true cost. It might be lower or higher.
Okay. D'autres questions, Monsieur Lefebvre?
Yeah, thank you for the information. Although, you know, with the costs going up tremendously and affordable housing being the concept of 30% of your income hasn't increased at that same level, of course. So it's going to be hard to be able to say to a developer that now the amount of housing is going to be 30% of somebody's income, while the increase in construction costs has substantially increase. So it will be very hard without significant funding from the senior levels to interest any developer, to participate at this stage. I don't know if you're seeing anything different elsewhere. Maybe you can provide us some more information, but that's my concern right now, because affordable housing is supposed to be 30%. If you have low income per household here, and it hasn't gone up, as you know, then how are you going to be able to respect, your the discounted market value of rent? Thanks.
Yes, Mr.
Yes. So I completely agree with you, and it's difficult to convince developers to actually get into this space. However, recently I've seen a lot of developers are trying to explore this space specifically because of the funding that is available from CMHC. CMHC has to invest more than $70 billion now by 2030 into affordable housing, right? It's to put a roof over everyone's head. So for-profit developers are now starting to explore this space and trying to figure out how to make profit of this space. So I have attended sessions where they have discussed how to essentially build affordable housing, use all this funding, potentially flip in the future, which would benefit the municipalities as well. So you can get them interested by literally talking about the funding that is available everywhere else that would reduce their expense in the beginning and essentially increase the ROI at the end of the day.
That's exactly what I figured, because you have to convince them to build equity in a short term, because if you're not going to do that, they're not going to be interested, because long term is no longer seen as acceptable for developers now. They don't see it in that respect, I think. So if you need to convince them, you have to build equity as fast as you can, and to be able to have a reasonable return on investment.
Yes, Mr. Betsy, go ahead.
Yeah, just wanted to quickly add on to the discussion as well. Absolutely. What you're discussing, the developers not only do need to generate equity, but the convincing thing for them seems to be funding. And what's very strong, since Hawkesbury is a municipality itself and is wanting to lead this initiative, as a municipality, you have access to funding that developers otherwise cannot access. So you have a very strong ability, basically, to say that we will support you, and because we will give you our formal support, you will have access to this funding and this funding and this funding. So otherwise, the for-profit developers actually cannot access that funding themselves, which would allow them to get some equity from the government, allow them to get access to a very low-cost mortgage. Only through the support of a municipality or a nonprofit can they actually access those. And since you are a municipality, you can basically open those doors for them.
Okay. Would it be better to work through an existing nonprofit corporation, or it really doesn't matter? Because we do have several in the area that we could probably deal with, and that would be a better avenue in terms of accessing these funds.
Mm-hmm. I would say that this, it really doesn't matter at the high level, I would say, but it's more about capacity. Since those nonprofits, if they're already working on housing, it might make more sense to just give them your support formally. And then also for a nonprofit, having the municipality support allows them to go a huge way forward with a lot of funding as well. So then that nonprofit can take on the project itself, and the focus of this committee and the town can be more so about the strategy surrounding affordable housing, whereas the actual projects are worked on by these particular groups.
Madam Ashley?
Thank you, Mr. Paquette. Basically, my question is to RDN. Up to now, I've not been able to have a shovel-ready developer interested in affordable housing. However, isn't there a possibility for the town to incorporate a nonprofit company or a co-op, and then on one of the town's land go ahead with a project with assistance from CMHC? Now, have you seen this in other municipalities? Yes, Mr. Abedin?
I can answer this. So yes, we have seen that happening with other municipalities where they have created this incorporated an organization to essentially build affordable housing and develop and manage it essentially. That is, so if you're not able to work with a not-for-profit organization or a for-profit developer, then even if, so I would say, if you're not able to work with a not-for-profit organization, then it makes sense to actually incorporate an organization that would lead from your side. If you are working with a for-profit developer, you will always need either a not-for-profit or your own incorporation to actually work with the developer. The developer cannot work by itself as per your instructions. They need a partner, which would be the municipality, their incorporated organization, or a not-for-profit that works with the municipality. I would say sometimes the towns have tried to do things themselves where they've said, oh, we'll just assign a employer to manage affordable housing from our end. I would say don't go that route. What you're suggesting by incorporating a small business makes complete sense, because then that business or that corporation will ensure that affordable housing is maintained regularly, promoted, and more affordable housing is developed in the community, right? One thing I think you will lack if you decide to do something like that is experience in managing and developing affordable housing. So you will need to ensure that whoever you hire to manage that corporation has experience in that space, because that is what funders want to see. They don't want to bet all the money on someone who's brand new at this space.
One of my big concern is that if, and I'm just saying if, and a big if the town were to go that route and could get the expertise of someone in order to manage it and have some amount of separation between the municipality and that nonprofit corporation, is whether or not the revenues will be sufficient in order to build a reserve to maintain the building. That's my concern.
Go ahead.
Yes.
Yes,
Yep, so I can. Yep, thank you. So yeah, I can speak to that directly. So maybe I hope I don't bore you too much, but maybe going into a little bit of our history. The initiative that me and Zane work under, Sustainable Housing Initiative. A lot of people think that we mean green building and environmental efficiency, which is also important for us. But the sustainable is actually about financial sustainability. So we saw that a lot of affordable housing developments were failing because they didn't have any subsidies anymore. The programs had ended, their reserves had depleted, and then the project had to close down. It couldn't remain affordable. We always develop every project we work on. We highly recommend the proponents that we work on them with that frame your project to be sustainable. That if you never put another dollar into this project, it will remain viable. It will operate for its full lifespan, 50 years, 100 years, whatever the life cycle is. And the way we ensure that is by accurately estimating the cost of the mortgage, accurately estimating the cost of the operational fees which are associated with running that property, accurately forecasting the revenues which can be expected of that property. So once we're able to estimate all of that, we financially model it to look at a 50-year pro forma and see how the performance of that project is over the course of those 50 years. So financial sustainability is very key to us, and that's what it's actually now very key both to provincial and federal governments as well. So even CMHC, they will want you to prove the financial sustainability of your project. because they want to make sure that the project will, exist for its life cycle, that it won't just go defunct in 3 or 4 years when it has no money left.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Assad, for that update, basically. And I assume, because I've seen your financial model in the sense that how you projected to amortize it over a 50-year period, and you've built in reserves and so forth. I did bring up the issue in your operating costs in terms of property taxation, because in Ontario there is taxation on these housing units. So you need to build that into your model, which will affect, of course, your reserves or your contribution to reserves over the course of the years. But I did see that you want to make it sustainable, and that's the important part of the whole process. And thank you for that. And I assume that when you will update your information based on new construction, you will factor in maybe that additional cost, just to make sure that when it's presented to developers, they are aware that it is an important element of the operating costs. Thanks, Assad.
I just want to follow up on what Mr. Lefebvre was saying, is that if the nonprofit is created by the town, will it still have to be subject to full taxation, or will only have to remit, let's say, to the counties and the schools? Maybe Mr. Lefebvre can help us on that. He may have seen situations similar to that in the past.
Yeah. I know that when it comes to, like, for instance, the counties, they talk taxation or payments in lieu of taxes, which is the same thing as taxation. Just the fact that it's a non-profit, I think it probably has the same status maybe as the counties. I don't think they're exempt from taxation, because from what I gathered, the ones that we have no and so forth actually do pay taxation. Maybe Madame Cordagnou, Madame Dussault can verify with Mr. Timbers, but I would be surprised if they would be exempt from taxation. And they would have to pay all 3 levels of taxation, be it municipal, county, as well as education.
Okay. If I may, sorry, go ahead. Madame
No, it's okay. Mr. Lefebvre pretty much answered the question by stating that in as much as a nonprofit would be created by the municipality, and the municipality would have some kind of ownership in the nonprofit, they would still be subject to the 3 level of taxations. Again, the model, the financial, we still need to see the financial model on this, because this will be adding up to the cost of the construction material. So therefore, that really changes the entire aspect of affordable housing. One of the things that I've brought to our deputy, our federal deputy minister, was that CMHC does not have specific policies for rural communities. And like, we are being treated the same way as Ottawa or Toronto, but whoever is the owner of these affordable housing, we cannot command the same amount of rent. I mean, we are like 100 kilometers away from Ottawa, but we cannot command the same amount of rent, and the salaries are not the same as in Ottawa either, because it's okay that we say that it's 30% of family revenue, but it's also 20% of the fair market value, and the fair market value of Hawkesbury is far different than the fair market value in Ottawa, and that makes it even worse. So a policy has to be established at the level of CMHC in order to give more points, or depending on, they have a point structure when they allow the funding, is that if you are from a rural area, we need to have more recognitions or more points, because we are really grasping at trying to find ways to make the financial model work. And right now, it's not working. And I'm not saying this from the top of my head. I've spoken to many developers and asked them to please get in touch with CMHC, please go through the financial models. And, you know, they've all come back, and even I've had a co-op say to me, no, we're not going ahead with our building affordable housing because it's just not affordable anymore. So they're putting their land up for sale, which is sad because we really do need it. So at this point in time, it's seen, and that's why I brought the ideas of maybe the town can look at some, you know, excess land. We don't have really excess land, to be honest. I mean, we would have to impede on parkland in order for the town to go ahead. I mean, it's not the end of the world. I know some people would just love to be living very close to a park, because if they have a family, the park is nearby and they have all the facilities. So we're in a dilemma. But maybe Mr. Abedin has some something to assist us or diminish our anxiety about trying to reach a goal that it seems like very difficult to attain.
Yes, thank you so much for, so you bring a very important point and very big point, which we've actually brought in front of in front of CMHC and other funding agencies continuously, that rural and remote are unique. Please don't put us in the same box, and they understand that now. So yes, I do want to bring assurance to you that CMHC has started, as per our request, started taking a customized approach towards different submissions that we make. So we have fortunately been able to create some strong relationships with the people in CMHC. So they have started listening to us. So in your case, when we do work on the financial model, and if it doesn't make sense to do it traditionally the way CMHC wants us to do, then we can develop it slightly differently. And on case-by-case basis, CMHC has agreed to review them and discuss them with us. So that is something we can discuss. I'm not sure what the town, what policy the town would come up with, but I think for this first project, we can explore the financial model and see what it looks like. And then if it doesn't make sense, then we do whatever makes sense essentially, and then present that to CMHC and see how they respond to that. But definitely they have started understanding rural and remote is unique, and fortunately they are, because we're a rural development network, we get to we get to be present in conversations where they're trying to explore rural and remote communities and trying to build new solutions for them.
Okay, here's a direct question to you. If, and I say if with capital IF, if or in the event, let's say council agreed to build X amount of unit within a park, would your organization do a similar scenario or financial scenario that you have done for us? And would there be any cost to the town for that scenario?
You mean the financial model in a business case, if we create something?
Yes, like because in this particular situation, if it was on town land, then there wouldn't be the cost of the land. And however, we would have to amend like the cost of the material and I don't know about the taxation at that point in time. So I am just wondering if your organization would present a like fee study, feasibility study, free of cost, and then work with the town, with CMHC, then once we work with CMHC, your consulting fees would be paid by CMHC.
If that new model or the financial feasibility that we have to create is for this specific project, then it'll be completely free essentially, because we've decided to give away free financial model business case for one project to you guys. If it's for other projects, we do spend hours on it, so we do charge for the work. However, being said that, if it's a new project, we can help you access seed funding. If the land is already in hand, then we can help you access seed funding from CMHC, which would essentially pay for our fees, if that makes sense. And yeah, for that, we do charge a small upfront cost, because that again takes hours to ensure that the application is submitted properly and so on and so forth. So on our side, we've committed to provide you financial model, business case, and needs assessment for one project, which we would, go ahead with. If that makes sense.
Monsieur Lefebvre?
Okay, thank you.
Monsieur Lefebvre?
In your financial modeling, didn't you also provide for donation of land, basically like there was $1 million or something like that, that was taken into account? So in reality, the work has already been done.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. So yeah, in the financial model, we assumed that the land was priced at a certain amount. I think yeah, it was $1 million, and we assumed it was donated. And yeah, just building off what Zane said, changing the financial model, actually, since it's not really tied to a specific piece of land. So in the scenario that you had presented, where some parkland would be available and the project would be developed there, we're more than able to change the financial model around to be specific to that area. And then the business case would actually be where we talk more about the location and details of that site. Yeah, so like Zane mentioned, because it's like the same project essentially, we're still in the scope of the
yeah, exactly. It's the same project. It's four quarters for $1 basically. You're just changing
exactly, yeah.
So it really doesn't change anything, the bottom line.
That's no, absolutely. We're absolutely able to change that around in the scope of your EOI. Yeah, there's no issue there.
And the bottom line as it is now is not necessarily the greatest at the moment. Thank you.
Any more question for RDN? No? Well, I want to thank you greatly for your presence here today. I think it's almost lunch hour for you guys. So have a good meal, and hope to see you again soon. Thank you very much.
Yes, and thank you very much for the information. It's always a pleasure to see you.
Yeah, thanks so much. Thank you so much for inviting us. And yeah, if there's anything, please do let us know. We're pretty flexible with everything. So, all right, thank you so much.
Yeah, no, thank you so much. And the very last thing I'll say, like, I think the steps the town is taking, for example, creating this committee is fantastic. Like, a lot of towns don't even get this far. So I think you're already headed to the right kind of direction. And also now with the information I got from the business case, I'll work on updating that. And once we have more details on the land, again, within the scope of your EOI, we will update that to be included in the business case as well. So hopefully you'll have a strong document at the end that developers and funders will be able to utilize.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Take care, guys.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bon, ben, je pense qu'on a eu des bonnes discussions avec eux, avec les comtés. Il reste seulement un item à l'ordre du jour, c'est l'item 7, les sites potentiels à explorer, Parc La Roque et Parc Cadieux. On a discuté un peu dans le passé, on peut en discuter encore. J'avais envoyé un courriel pour aller visiter le Parc Cadieux, parce que si je regarde ça, puis je ne dis pas que je suis d'accord ou non, ce n'est pas une question d'être d'accord, c'est une question de discussion seulement. Le Parc Cadieux me semble être plus grand, avec moins d'infrastructures que le Parc La Roque. Le Parc La Roque est déjà condensé avec beaucoup d'infrastructures de jeu. Ça se modifie, oui, sûrement. Mais si je regarde le Parc Cadieux, il n'y a pas vraiment de modification à faire parce qu'à l'ouest du parc, il n'y a pas d'infrastructure. tout se passe pas mal au côté sud et au côté est. Donc, c'est des choses qu'on pourrait peut-être, puis comme encore une fois, je dis, je ne prends aucune décision aujourd'hui. C'est un sujet pour discussion seulement. Et puis, on va s'en tenir aux discussions, s'il vous plaît. Donc, quelqu'un qui veut, Mme Asselin, je sais que c'est vous qui avez mis l'ordre du jour, fait que allez-y.
Bien, essentiellement, c'est simplement pour fin de discussion, puisque pour le moment, j'ai pas personne qui a confirmé qu'il allait d'avant avec du logement abordable. Et de toute façon, même si on avait une trentaine d'unités, je suis certaine que si on en construisait d'autres, qu'on pourrait certainement les combler. Moi, où j'accroche, c'est que essentiellement, il faudrait demander à Mme Cordonnier de prendre un peu de temps pour regarder, soit au Parc Larocque ou au Parc Adieu, si on peut rentrer un 36 unités, ou peut-être ça serait 36, ça peut être un 4 étages aussi. C'est sûr que ça prendrait un ascenseur, donc là, ça devient plus dispendieux. C'est aussi la question, est-ce que la Ville veut créer un OSBL séparément? C'est seulement c'est plus des questions que j'avance que des réponses. C'est sûr que si on n'a pas personne qui se lance dans le logement abordable, qu'à ce moment-là, il va falloir se poser sérieusement des questions. Mais pour se poser des questions, il faut savoir, est-ce que c'est possible dans le parc Larocque ou le parc Adieu d'instaurer, je pense, les 36 unités qu'avait fait RDN avait à ce moment-là, je pense, fait des scénarios sur 36 unités, où on peut peut-être en mettre plus. 30?
C'est plutôt 30.
Alors, OK, donc 30. Alors, est-ce qu'on peut mettre 30 ou plus d'unités sur ces terrains-là sans accrocher ou sans empiéter sur l'aspect parc? Parfois, il faut peut-être réaménager un peu le parc, mais par contre, est-ce que c'est possible? Moi, je fais juste regarder dans l'air, est-ce qu'il y a une possibilité? Madame Cordonnier?
Oui, alors les 30 unités, j'imagine qu'elles seraient dans un immeuble d'appartements. Donc, dans le parc Cadieux, dans les deux parcs, ça demanderait un amendement au zonage pour faire passer le terrain en résidentiel de densité 4. Oui. Dans le parc Cadieux, comme j'ai expliqué auparavant, ce ne serait pas possible parce qu'en fait, on n'a que des maisons unifamiliales et que des duplex autour. Donc, le règlement de zonage ne nous permet pas actuellement de permettre, même si c'est une zone R4, autre chose que ce qui se trouve adjacent à cette zone, donc des maisons unifamiliales ou des semi-détachés. Pour le parc Larocque, on a des logements multiples à côté. Donc, à ce moment-là, ça pourrait être plus envisageable. Mais encore une fois, ça demande un amendement au zonage. Puis, au niveau de la superficie du terrain et de la portance du sol, ça, je n'ai pas les calculs encore de fait. Mais c'est ça. Le parc Cadieux, ce n'est pas possible si on ne change pas le zonage pour permettre autre chose que ce qui est adjacent au terrain dans les provisions de la zone R4. Et le parc Larocque, c'est plus envisageable, mais on a quand même besoin d'un amendement au zonage, donc de consulter la population adjacente qui vit autour. Et besoin de savoir la capacité du terrain en tant que tel. Comme physiquement, est-ce que c'est possible?
Si je comprends bien. Allez-y, excusez, on a allez-y.
Essentiellement, si vous faites, si on allait d'avant avec le changement global de zonage, on pourrait possiblement regarder le parc Cadieux. Si on ne va pas d'avant avec le changement global, on pourrait regarder à ce moment-là le parc Larocque. Moi, ce que je vous pose la question, c'est à savoir, est-ce que la superficie, est-ce qu'elle est suffisante pour avoir 30 unités? C'est plutôt cette question-là, de pouvoir le regarder. je trouve que votre plan au niveau de vos discussions, c'est-à-dire au niveau du changement de zonage global, est très intéressant. Il est quand même, disons, peut-être complexe pour la population parce que ça va affecter différents endroits. Mais je pense que la population doit être sensibilisée au fait qu'il y a un grand manque de logement. Et aussi, je pense que la ville et le conseil doivent être sensibilisés au fait que la problématique de logement va devenir une problématique économique parce qu'il y a beaucoup de gens qui n'iront pas travailler à Hawkesbury parce qu'ils ne peuvent pas se trouver une place à Hawkesbury et les compagnies n'auront pas de personnel qui ont des salaires peut-être minimum pour travailler dans leur compagnie. Alors, on a plusieurs choses qui jouent en même temps. Et je peux vous dire que moi, ça me cause du stress parce que je réalise que à titre de leader de la ville, on a quand même un certain montant de responsabilité à ce niveau-là. Alors, pour moi, ce qui est important, c'est d'explorer toutes les possibilités et dans le but de peut-être que, tu sais, 1 ou 2 projets vont s'ouvrir à ces gens-là. Parce que je peux vous dire que même s'ils sont 2 personnes qui font un salaire minimum, c'est assez difficile de vivre aujourd'hui compte tenu de toutes les exigences de la vie. Alors, c'est pour ça que le logement abordable, ça devient très important. Alors, c'est tout ce que j'ai à dire.
Oui, vous avez entièrement raison, Mme Ashley. Le logement abordable est important dans notre ville. Puis je regardais aussi, là, Cornwall qui sont pas mal dans la problématique aussi. Même qu'il y a beaucoup d'autres villes qui sont dans la problématique. Il n'y a pas juste nous autres. On dirait que ça a fait une pandémie au travers du Canada, cette affaire-là. Malheureusement, c'est la réalité des choses. La seule chose, comme j'ai pas de problème peut-être avec certaines choses qu'on a mentionnées, comme peut-être la ville pourrait créer un genre de coop pour. La seule chose, c'est que j'ai très bien compris quand que M. Lasselle a dit qu'il n'était pas prêt, que les comtés ne sont pas prêts à prendre l'argent des contribuables pour construire du logement social. Puis je comprends que c'est son point de vue, très, très bien. Parce que moi non plus, je ne suis pas vraiment prêt à prendre l'argent des payeurs de taxes de la ville d'Hawkesbury pour payer pour du logement abordable non plus. On n'est pas une municipalité de 300 000, on est 10 000.
Mais on n'est pas obligé, si on crée une coop ou une OSBL, c'est que les fonds vont provenir de CMHC. Parce que tous les frais d'architecture, de consultants et tout ça, de construction, l'hypothèque, ça provient tout de CMHC. On n'a pas besoin de mettre de l'argent en avant. Moi, je ne veux pas qu'on mette de l'argent d'avant, puis je ne veux pas qu'on mette de l'argent en arrière, qui veut dire qu'une fois que le projet est fait, on n'a pas suffisamment de réserves pour faire la maintenance puis les réparations. Alors, moi, je ne veux pas que ce soit la ville de Hawkesbury, les payeurs de la ville de Hawkesbury qui payent pour. D'une façon, ils payent pour, d'une façon ou d'une autre, parce que CMHC, l'argent qu'ils prennent, c'est l'argent des contribuables. Donc, mais par contre, je ne veux pas que ce soit l'entité de la ville de Hawkesbury qui soit là à mettre les fonds en avant puis mettre des fonds en arrière. C'est pour ça que je voulais m'assurer que RDM puisse nous donner un scénario si c'était du terrain qui était en donation, comme M. Lefebvre a mentionné. À ce moment-là, ça diminue les coûts. Mais même à ça, comme M. Lefebvre a dit, c'est pas enchantant. Donc, on va attendre qu'ils nous reviennent avec des nouveaux scénarios. Et puis, à ce moment-là, ben, on pourra les regarder, les scénarios, puis voir si ça fait du sens ou si ça ne fait pas de sens. C'est tout ce qu'on peut faire. Je dois dire que je suis quand même contente d'entendre RDM dire On est une des seules, ben, ils n'ont pas beaucoup de municipalités qui ont même un comité de logement abordable. J'étais un peu surprise de ça parce que le problème de logement abordable, c'est dans toutes les municipalités. Alors, je pense qu'on est proactif, on a été proactif dans ça.
Oui, puis je pense que le comité comme tel travaille fort dans l'ensemble, même le conseil. Là, donc, regardez, je pense qu'on fait tout notre possible. Je pense, j'ai parlé avec des développeurs. Puis, comme vous, ben, c'est toujours la question de l'équation au bout de tout. Monsieur Lefebvre, vous avez une question? Un commentaire?
Oui, bien, juste pour revenir, parce que si je me souviens bien, monsieur soit Betty ou monsieur Assad, il avait parlé qu'il ne recommandait pas qu'on crée une société, qu'on travaille avec des sociétés existantes. Ça, c'est un des commentaires, me semble, qu'il avait fait à ce propos-là. Quand on parle d'explorer des terrains, on parle des terrains publics, mais non pas publics, mais parcs comme tel, c'est sûrement pas le projet public à l'intérieur du mandat du comité. Ça fait plusieurs reprises qu'on parle des parcs, mais on n'a jamais adressé ou abordé la question au conseil municipal comme tel. On n'a jamais eu de commentaire comme tel. Alors, si on est pour ouvrir cette parenthèse-là, on devrait retourner au conseil pour s'assurer que si on est en train de faire des démarches, ce n'est pas des démarches inutiles et qu'on soit transparent comme on a toujours parlé. Alors, parce que des parcs, ça concerne beaucoup de gens qui demeurent en ville et qui entourent ces parcs-là. Quand on parle de réaménager des parcs, on parle de changer l'aménagement, qui veut dire que 4,38 pour une pièce, on détourne le terrain parce qu'il faut travailler toujours avec l'intérieur. On a eu des échanges de courriels là-dessus, mais pas nécessairement au niveau du conseil au complet. Alors, je pense que c'est important que si on est pour aller plus loin, qu'on l'ajoute à l'ordre du jour pour voir si le conseil a vraiment un intérêt à adresser ou à regarder les parcs pour ces fins-là. Surtout qu'on a déjà des développeurs qui ont déjà des terrains qui sont en leur main depuis des années, qui ne développent pas présentement. Alors, qu'est-ce qu'on fait avec un terrain? Qu'est-ce qu'on fait avec un terrain public si on est pour commencer à le développer nous-mêmes, qui n'est pas recommandé? Comme vous avez dit, M. Paquette, on n'est pas pour prendre des fonds publics pour cette raison-là. Alors, si on n'est pas allé à ce niveau-là, qu'on l'amène à la table du conseil, parce que c'est sûrement pas de notre mandat du comité de peur, j'ai pu voir, qui a été adopté par le conseil le 22 février 2021. Puis on travaille sur les terrains qui avaient été présentés et approuvés par le conseil par le rapport de Mme Bellil au mois de septembre, révisé en 2020. Alors, ça, c'est mon opinion, M. le Président.
Monsieur Lefebvre, je suis entièrement d'accord avec ce que vous dites. Mais si on regarde les terrains que Mme Bellil a soumis, on a le Cluster-Roi, dont le conseil a déjà statué sur le Cluster-Roi, qu'est-ce qu'il ferait. Ça, c'est comme terrain public. Les deux autres terrains, c'est des terrains qui sont entre la rue Nelson-Est et Higginson, qui appartiennent à M. Demers. C'est des terrains d'un privé. Puis, j'ai aucun écho comme quoi M. Demers est intéressé à faire du logement abordable. Moi, je regarde les deux parcs simplement comme solution de, disons, la dernière solution. Je ne le regarde pas comme première solution. Je le regarde que si on se rend compte qu'on n'a pas personne qui va profiter soit de l'argent au niveau de la province et du fédéral pour faire du logement abordable, OK? Puis que personne n'en fait, bien là, la dernière solution, ça serait peut-être de regarder les parcs. Mais il n'y a rien qui nous empêche d'aller au conseil et de demander au conseil, tout simplement, est-ce que vous voulez qu'on regarde les parcs comme dernière solution?
Même on peut attendre. Les terrains que vous parlez, là, il y a deux volets, parce qu'il y a du terrain public et il y a du terrain public parc. Le terrain public, on aurait peut-être acquisitionné à cause des taxes municipales, c'est une chose, mais quand on parle des terrains municipaux qui est désigné comme parc, je trouve que c'est une autre étape essentiellement qu'on doit consulter avec le public comme tel, parce qu'on a des gens qui demeurent autour du parc, ça fait des années, puis on est familles, puis je suis certain que le conseil, il y aurait des commentaires à faire là-dessus avant qu'on commence à dépenser de l'énergie et des sous là-dedans. C'est ça mon commentaire, qu'on l'adresse à la table du conseil pour que ce soit vraiment transparent, parce que comme j'ai mentionné, il y a eu des échanges de courriels depuis quelques temps et ils ont pas été, les membres du conseil au complet n'ont pas été mis en copie conforme, alors ils ne sont pas nécessairement au courant des discussions qu'on a présentement. Oui, je comprends, là. Oubliez pas que nos discussions, là, c'est qu'on y va à petits pas. On ne peut pas tout faire, on n'a pas toutes les connaissances. On essaye de faire le mieux qu'on peut. Monsieur Paquette essaye de faire le mieux qu'il peut au niveau des développeurs aussi. Alors, tout ce que je dis, c'est que combien qu'on en a de terrain municipal sans parc qu'on pourrait utiliser pour le développement abordable? Et qu'on adresse cette question-là à la table du conseil, c'est ça que j'essaie de dire, tout simplement. Et non pas seulement en comité ou par courriel. Si on en a discuté, on en discute à la table du conseil. Mais vous, c'est parce que vous voulez discuter des terrains publics plus les terrains publics parcs, c'est ça? Qu'est-ce que j'essaie de dire, c'est que dans notre mandat comme tel, il ne fait pas partie de notre mandat d'investiguer des parcs publics comme tel, comme une alternative. Si on est pour adresser ce mandat-là, qu'on l'ajoute à la recommandation du 22 février ou qu'on adresse ça parce que c'est aucunement dans ces discussions-là.
Vous avez raison. Je pense que notre mandat était surtout de travailler sur les questions de ARDN. On est allé un peu plus haut, mais c'était pas pour être méchant qu'on a décidé d'aller plus haut, c'était pour essayer de trouver des solutions. Mais concernant les terrains, M. Lefebvre, je pense que vous avez raison, on devrait demander que le mandat du logement abordable soit qu'il soit élargi dans ce chemin-là, ou bien donc ce soit le conseil qui s'en occupe totalement pour les terrains. Mais je pense que le conseil serait prêt à laisser le comité du logement abordable apporter certaines recommandations au conseil par la suite concernant certains terrains ou whatever. Là. Mais regarde, je pense que c'est une bonne idée de l'apporter au conseil puis que le mandat du comité du logement abordable soit élargi. Qu'est-ce que vous en pensez?
C'est rien que ça, mon but, M. le Président, pour éviter des discussions qui se font à un groupe limité, qu'on rouvre la porte, parce qu'on parle des parcs comme tel. On ne parle pas des terrains qui ont été acquis pour des arrérages de taxes qui sont déjà développés ou que ce soit. On parle du terrain public avec beaucoup de gens qui sont concernés là-dedans. C'est ça. OK, je suis d'accord avec ces deux points-là. La seule chose que vous m'apportez de nouveau, c'est que vous m'apportez la question des terrains qui sont disponibles pour des raisons d'arrérage de taxes. Quels sont les terrains qui sont disponibles pour faire du logement? J'ai une idée, c'est plutôt un exemple, mais pas un exemple concret comme tel. C'est juste pour dire que si on parle de terrain public comme impact, puis si on parle de terrain public comme une propriété qui était pour les arrérages de taxes, pour moi, il y a une distinction. Oui, je suis entièrement d'accord avec vous, puis je suis complètement d'accord avec vous. Je vous suis. Et simplement, je voulais juste parler de la distinction. C'est pas considéré pareillement par les gens. Oui, je suis d'accord avec vous.
Y a-t-il d'autres questions ou commentaires de la part de quelqu'un, non?
Non.
Bon, ben, OK. Donc, on peut l'ajouter, s'il vous plaît, à l'ordre du jour de notre première rencontre du mois de septembre pour élargir, si on veut, les responsabilités du comité de logement abordable, pour élargir le mandat, là, plus ou moins, là, dans la direction de regarder certaines options terrain ou d'autres pour le comité de logement abordable.
Si je peux, M. le Président. Plus de...
Pardon?
Si je peux, M. le Président, puis peut-être adresser cette question-là à Mme Dussault, parce que si vous regardez la recommandation qui était faite le 22 février 2001, où c'était une recommandation avec les objectifs du comité, peut-être que ce serait bon de le ramener et de l'élargir ou d'amener cette discussion-là à la table pour qu'elle soit confirmée ou amendée.
C'est un peu ce que je voulais dire, là, élargir le mandat du comité de logement abordable.
Est-ce que ce serait... Je m'excuse, est-ce que ça serait possible qu'on travaille présentement? Je vais partager mon écran avec les mandats actuels pour qu'on puisse bâtir la recommandation au conseil pour la première de septembre, pour que ce soit très clair qu'est-ce qu'on va recommander au conseil.
Oui, allez-y.
Donc, est-ce que vous voyez mon écran? Est-ce que c'est assez clair?
Oui. Ben, pour moi, oui.
C'est ici. Le comité de logement abordable aura comme objectif de faire des recommandations au Conseil concernant le dévouement du personnel et des ressources financières pour faire progresser les stratégies de logement abordable en tant que priorité de la Ville, aider à la coordination des programmes de logement, faciliter le développement de la politique de logement abordable et des incitations, suivre la mise en œuvre du plan d'action pour le logement abordable de la Ville d'Hawkesbury, faire enquête et faire des recommandations au Conseil concernant la création d'un fonds de réserve pour le logement abordable.
Okay.
Donc, si
Alors, il faudrait ajouter essentiellement un autre item pour l'investigation des terrains pour raison de logement abordable dans les parcs municipaux. C'est ça, M. le Président?
Ben, c'est un peu ça, qu'on regarde les terrains là, qui sont disponibles à nous autres, là, comme terrains qui appartiennent à la Ville. On n'a pas beaucoup.
Non.
On peut inclure le cluster-roi, on peut inclure n'importe quoi. Écoutez, c'est juste élargir le mandat, comme ça qu'on peut regarder des terrains.
C'est tout. Si le Conseil est prêt à donner cette directive-là pour regarder dans les parcs, je sais qu'on a des parcs, tout le monde a des commentaires. C'est certain que le parc Confédération, il va être exclu comme tel. C'est sûr, c'est sous-entendu, je pense. Là. Et peut-être autre raison. Mais l'idée est qu'au moins qu'on ait cette discussion-là, parce qu'il y a un parc qui s'appelle Parc Sydney aussi. Puis sans aller dans les autres discussions. Et peut-être aussi cette investigation-là pour voir s'il y a des clauses de restriction sur ces propriétés-là ou non.
Oui, c'est ça. Il faut tout regarder là, au complet. Le parc Cadieux, je sais que déjà, c'était une donation de M. Cadieux, Albert, si ma mémoire est bonne. Puis, si je me souviens bien, il y avait des restrictions là-dessus. Mais les restrictions sont-ils toujours en vigueur, oui ou non? Il faudrait regarder.
Puis le parc Larocque, essentiellement, a été donné par Albert Larocque aussi. Alors, y a-t-il eu des restrictions là aussi? C'est encore des dons, mais comme vous avez fait parvenir un courriel à ce sujet-là, c'est peut-être plus applicable. Alors, c'est à voir.
C'est ça. Mais même si ce n'est pas applicable, des fois, il faut respecter aussi la volonté des gens qui l'ont donné.
Le voulu, bien entendu, puis je suis entièrement d'accord parce qu'il y a des membres de famille que ça les tiennent à cœur. Puis le but de tout ça, c'était pour les mettre leur nom essentiellement dans l'histoire de la ville de Hawkesbury qui ont fait des dons considérables quand même pour fait terrain.
Mais tout ça, là, juste pour dire là, que ça ne nous empêche pas de discuter en conseil ou en comité de certaines choses. Puis en bout de ligne, regarde, c'est le conseil qui décide, c'est pas le comité du logement abordable. La décision finale revient au Conseil.
Oui, absolument. Puis, je pense qu'il faut toujours continuer nos efforts vers les développeurs privés pour essayer de les encourager, puis de voir s'il n'y a pas une stratégie. Comme on est à huis clos, c'est bien ça?
Non.
Non? OK, alors, donc, ça va. Moi, je pense que la première ligne d'approche, puis c'est ça qu'on a fait jusqu'à maintenant, c'était d'approcher des développeurs qui détenaient des terrains privés pour les encourager à faire du logement abordable. Je suis très contente d'entendre de RDN que la SCHL commence à avoir une ouverture d'esprit vis-à-vis les terrains qui se trouvent dans des régions rurales. Ça, je trouve ça très positif. Puis même, je pense, juste le fait d'avoir un comité sur le logement abordable dans la ville, ça démontre à la SCHL, puis même les développeurs, qu'on est là comme pour les appuyer, peut-être pas financièrement, mais de leur apporter un certain appui, puis des connexions avec RDN aussi. Donc, il y a quand même des choses positives, puis je pense qu'il faut explorer ce volet-là. Explorer les parcs, ça serait plus une question de, bon, c'est absolument rien qui se produit. On n'a rien dans l'espace qui nous démontre que ça se produit. Bien là, je pense que ça devient une question du conseil, jusqu'à quel point est-ce qu'on veut se responsabiliser au niveau du logement abordable. Alors, ça serait comme en deuxième lieu. C'est tout simplement comme ça, je le vois. Puis, je suis bien d'accord avec M. Lefebvre que si jamais on devait sérieusement regarder l'aspect des parcs, que ça devrait passer par une réunion publique. Alors, moi, je suis d'accord avec ça. Alors, c'est tout ce que j'ai à dire. Merci beaucoup.
Moi aussi, j'ai plus rien à rajouter. M. Lefebvre, quelque chose à rajouter?
Non, merci. C'est bien.
OK. Puis, membre de l'administration, avez-vous quelque chose à rajouter? Bien, merci pour votre temps, puis je suis très heureux que vous avez pu vous joindre à nous. On a une autre réunion demain. J'espère que Mme Cordonnier sera présente. Oui, merci. C'est pour l'ajournement proposé par M. Lefebvre, appuyé par Mme Ashley. Pas avec ça. Mme Ashley, vous m'avez posé une question par courriel, puis je n'ai pas eu la chance de vous répondre parce que je n'ai pas vraiment la réponse. Mais si vous voulez rester en ligne, ou venons juste raccrocher, puis je vais vous rappeler aussitôt qu'on aura fini la réunion, on en discutera.
Certainement.
J'ai aussi une question pour par la suite. Donc, je vais juste conclure la réunion si c'est correct avec tout le monde.
Oui, absolument.
Okay.
Ben,
merci.
Bonne soirée à vous tous.
Bonne soirée. Bonne journée.
Merci beaucoup.
OK, bye.